Welcome to Unpacking the Athlete podcast, hosted by yours truly, Rob Martin. Welcome to Unpacking the Athlete, a podcast dedicated to diving deep into what makes athletes who they are. Today's guest has been racing bikes since he was little, and now he is a senior at Lake Orion High School. Here is a list of his 2022 accomplishments on the bike. He is the MISCA Male Varsity State Champion in mountain biking. He was third overall in the Michigan Gravel Race Series in the long course version. And at Lumberjack, that's a 100-mile mountain bike race, he placed 7th overall. It's been great to watch him get faster over the years. Our guest today is Jonathan Meyer. Welcome, dude. Let's get this party started.
Sounds great.
First question is a funny question. Are you going to race in jorts, or have you?
I have raced in jorts, and I plan on doing it again in the future. I raced in jorts for the state championship race for MISCA. I've also done it in Colorado at Short Track Nationals, and it's been great every time. There's a lot of positive feedback from spectators. Everyone loves it.
Nice. Did you get that idea from Ryan Standish?
Maybe indirectly. I actually got it from Kellen Caldwell before he graduated and went to Fort Lewis. We had a lot of influence from him on my team, athletic mentors, so a lot of us do the jorts thing.
That's cool. Jorts. All right. Tell us about MISCA, what it is, who it's for, and how many races are involved.
So MISCA is a 6-race series for anyone, I think, 1st grade through 12th grade. And it's basically just a junior mountain bike series, and it's meant to get more kids on bikes.
Absolutely. And did you say how many races there were every year?
6.
6. Perfect. Let's go back to Sunday, October 16th, 2022, not very long ago. I heard that you had a crash in the race. Is that true?
Yes, it is.
Looking back at that, would you have done anything differently to avoid the crash? And if so, what would you have done differently?
Well, I think at the point of the crash, the race was a little bit beyond saving for me. It was getting a little bit too close to the end for me to make a move. It was pretty much just a lapse of concentration for a split second, and it was at a critical point in the race. It was too late to make up any of that distance, but I think regardless of the crash, I should have made a move earlier in the race and tried to get up front in a controlling position in the single track and tried to put some pressure on rather than letting someone else dictate the pace.
Okay. That makes a lot of sense, actually. So instead of waiting to the last minute, you would have made a move a little earlier.
Yeah.
Okay. During most of the MISCA races, did you have a strategy for them, or did you just go out and see what unfolded?
So I had pretty definitive strategies for all the races up to race 5, and that was pretty much a combination of throughout the first 4 races, that was what would dictate the placement for the state championship series. So I figured after I had won all 4 of those races, strategy and winning a little bit became a little bit less crucial. I had pretty race-specific strategies for every race up until race 5, and then starting for 5 and 6, I kind of just went out there for the race.
Okay. Now, why don't you explain a little bit about how you became the state champion? Because there's 6 races. What happens with the points over 6 races? Are you allowed to drop any races? And how did that come to fruition with you becoming the state champ?
How the series works is there's 6 races, and at the end of the season, MISCA will take 5 of the 6 races, 5 of the races that you performed best at, and they add up your points. There's point values that correspond to different placements, and they're each separated by 3 points. So first place is 120 points, second place is 117, and third place is 114. And basically they add up all your points from your best 5 out of 6 races, and whoever has the most points after they do all those calculations is the state champion.
And so you became the state champion because how many races did you win?
So I won the first 5 out of the 6 races. So after race 5, there was no dispute because it's impossible to get more than 5 wins in your overall season tally.
Nice. So you had already wrapped it up at the 5th race of the season.
Right.
So the crash in the last race didn't even matter.
No, it was pretty inconsequential, but it would have been nice because there's only one other person who's won all 6 varsity races in all of MISCA history, but it is what it is.
Oh, I didn't know that. Who was that person?
Justin Krieger,
Okay. And he
long
actually
time
helps.
ago.
Yeah, he actually helps run the whole thing, right? He's off riding all the time.
Yeah, we helped course that up with him on Saturday.
Oh, cool. All right, let's shift gears a little bit and talk about gravel racing because you had a pretty good gravel race season.
Yes, I love gravel racing.
What gravel race this year was the most challenging for you and why was it so tough?
Oh, I have to say the Hart Hills gravel race. I think that's kind of out by you. On the western side of the state, that race is brutal. Every year, it's so windy. The course is so hard. There's like sand and seasonal roads. It's rough, it's super long, and it's always freezing cold. And it's just a brutal race. Everything about it's really hard.
What was the toughest part about the race? The climbing, the soft sand. I think I know the soft sand section you're talking about. It I think it coincides with actually some hills, right?
I'd probably there's a lot of stuff going on at that race. It's crazy. But I think I have to say the hardest part about that race was the competition. There's a lot of fast people that race gravel, especially there. Garrett Gentleman was there, and he's insane. That race was a bit of a humbling experience for me because I was trying to get on his wheel and hold it to get up to a breakaway with him, and I was riding as hard as I could, and there was nothing I could do. He was just riding me off his wheel, and it was insane. It was something else.
Yeah. Gravel races are humbling. I'll have to agree with you on that. I've had a couple of those this year that humbled me as well. What gravel race did you feel the best at? And can you walk us through that race?
Yeah, so my best gravel race of the year was definitely the Cowpie Classic in June, I think. I think it was the week before Lumberjack. And it was a great race. It was a beautiful day. Actually, that race last year, I was a little bit out for redemption because there had been a storm the day before the race, and there was a bunch of fallen debris in the road, and I hit a big log in the middle of the road, and I cracked my front wheel and went over the bars. Had a pretty nasty fall, so I was out for redemption this year, and I paid attention to all the moves. I got in a break with Dan Yankus, Alex Tenelshoff, another base media guy, and Chris Uberty, and that was the group we took through the farm section at the end. I don't know if you've ever done that race, but it goes through a nasty section, like just through fields and through the woods. It's technical. It's really rough and bumpy. It's kind of like a cyclocross race in the middle of a gravel race, but worse. Um, and it's so crazy. It's like a power drain. And then after that, you got like 5 miles to go. And Chris Uberty got away from us. In the end, it came down to a 4-way sprint between me, Dan, and the two base media guys. And I actually came out on top of the sprint, so I was able to get third place overall in that race, which was my best finish of the year so far.
Awesome. That's awesome, dude.
I'm really
Congrats
proud
on it.
of it. Yeah,
Heck
thank you.
yeah. You mentioned Lumberjack in that story, so let's move on to Lumberjack and talk about that. There was pretty good weather that year, or this year, except for the temperature at the start. How did that race go, and who were you riding with during that race?
I think the weather was actually beautiful all day. It wasn't too hot, wasn't too cold. Through that race, It was a little bit of a roller coaster. So I started off and I got a pretty decent start up until we got into the single track, and I was probably sitting about 10th wheel. There's a right turn into the single track, and there was a big bunch up there, and I ended up crashing. So I was pretty far back, maybe 25th or something. And I worked a lot. I worked hard that first lap to get back up to the lead group, and that probably took a lot out of me. After that, I was able to stay with the lead group for about 15 miles maybe. I was with them for half the first lap. Then there's a pretty good climb right in the middle of that lap. And I was looking down at my heart rate monitor, seeing 170 beats per minute for 3 minutes in a 100-mile race. And I was like, I cannot do this the whole time. So it was a tough decision, but I made the decision to kind of back off the lead group, trust my pacing strategy. And I rode with two guys from out of state. We had a solid group of three of us until the end, and I rode with them lap two. It was a weird race actually, because about halfway through the third lap, I think you're like 85 miles in, I was starting to fall asleep on my bike, which is something I've never experienced before. Like, my legs weren't tired and my muscles weren't tired, but like, I was mentally tired. I was fatigued, and I was falling asleep on my bike. It was a crazy experience. I guess people throughout the race have been dropping back off the lead group, and we've been picking them off, or they've been dropping out of the race. But in the end, I was able to get away from those two guys I was riding with in the climbing section at the end, and I was able to finish in seventh, right behind Scotty Alba, which was cool.
That's way cool.
Yeah.
I have felt like falling asleep during one race in my life, and that was U.S. Nats last year in
Oh
Colorado,
yeah, for sure.
Winter Park, right?
Yeah,
Going up the climb and the lack of oxygen. I really just felt like I could lay on the side of the climb and really just go right to sleep.
it's ridiculous out there.
Did you stop at aid stations after every lap of the Lumberjack?
My mom was there. She was there for neutral support, not neutral support, but kind of athlete support in the start finish area. So I stopped there on my second and third lap. Well, going out for my second and going out for my third. And I stopped there. So my fueling strategy, I had some snacks on my bike, like unproductive snacks. I had Cliff Blocks and I had gummy bears and stuff. Those were my moral support snacks. And then for my actual fuel, I had, I think, 1.5 liters in my Camelback of Hammer Perpetuum in the chocolate flavor, which is their endurance mix. And I drank 1.5 liters of the Hammer Endurance mix every lap. And so each lap I would stop in the pits going out for my lap and swap out my Camelback. So I had a fresh 1.5 liters every lap. So that was what I used the aid stations for. And then there's also one midway through the lap, and I did not stop at that one.
Okay. You didn't stop at the Hawaiian aid station?
No, but it's funny because last year when I did it, I actually stopped at it on the first lap, 15 minutes into the race, because I had to use the bathroom. But it's funny.
Along the way, and I know you're young, but what has been your favorite mountain bike?
Like you said, I don't have a lot of options to pick from. My favorite mountain bike to ride is probably my current one. It's a Scott Spark RC900. It's a incredible bike. I love it. It's a little finicky though. I have a bit of trouble setting up my suspension from time to time. But probably my favorite bike that I've ever had, my first 26er bike that I had when I was sizing up. When I was still little, I had a Schwinn Homegrown in the Bass Boat Orange paint color, and it had Chris King hubs and RockShox fork on it. It was a super cool vintage bike.
That sounds super cool. What other bikes do you have in your bike repertoire over there?
So my only other bike is my Canyon Inflight, which is my favorite bike. It's a very versatile bike. So it's actually Canyon cyclocross bike, And back in 2020, I saved up a bunch of money from working at a bike shop, actually. And I bought a Canyon Grail straight from Canyon. And it's a really good budget price. It's a aluminum frame. And then it comes with a SRAM Rival Group set. So I had that bike for a while. And then I ended up actually building my own wheels for it. I built some Nexty carbon wheels, which I don't know if you've heard of them, but they're like a Chinese company that they make pretty good stuff. Probably not envy quality, but it gets the job done. And I built those and put those on that bike. And then actually this winter, I sold that frame set and bought the in-flight frame, which is a super light cyclocross frame off Pink Bike. That's kind of my gravel bike. It's like a budget super bike, and I use it for gravel and cyclocross and road. And I have a set of road wheels that I built for it. Those are my two bikes.
Nice. My road gravel cyclocross bike is also just a cyclocross bike, but I use it for, because it can do multiple things. And why not?
Right. There's all those debates on what the fastest gravel bike is, and I think it's definitely a cyclocross bike without going the dedicated aero gravel race bike.
Right? Yeah. I mean, I can go pretty fast on mine.
For sure, yeah.
Would you rather race your bike, chase a good KOM, or rip single track with your friends?
Oh, man, I didn't see that third one coming. I think I just have to say a good mountain bike ride with friends, to be honest. It's just so fun to go out and ride with everyone when you're not just breathing through your eyes the whole time. It's great just to go out and ride with all your closest friends and not be worried about placing in results.
Yeah. Do you guys ever go rip like any jump lines?
I don't know, I should. I like to keep my wheels on the ground for the most part. I like doing little jumps in the race when it's faster or more smooth, but I'm not really comfortable with those big dirt jumps and stuff. I
Okay.
know it would be a good skill to have, and I probably need to start practicing it if I'm serious about doing some more bigger races, but it's definitely something I need to work up to.
Yeah, maybe you can go hang out with Kyan up in Traverse City for a little bit and have him
Yeah,
pull you along and teach you the ropes because I think you're right. The higher you get, the more jumpy things can get, I would say. I mean, looking at just more of the elite races. Yeah.
like looking at the that big drop in the Arkansas Pro Cup
Yeah,
course, and then I
seriously.
heard there's a lot of jumps there too. So
Yep.
I'm planning to head out there this spring actually. So
All right.
definitely definitely need to get working on that.
Maybe you better head down to Bentonville.
Yes, definitely. It
Do you remember when you got started on the bike and how that happened?
was a long time ago. It was I started mountain biking when I was 7, so 10 years ago, and my first trail I ever rode was Addison Oaks, and I guess I've just loved the bike ever since. I mean, how could you not, right?
Addison Oaks is a good trail.
It's my favorite trail around here. Except right now, it's got a lot of leaves and sticks on it, makes it hard to go fast.
Yeah. What's your second favorite trail nearby?
Probably Bald Mountain North. It's right
Okay.
next to Addison, but
Yeah.
that's a super fun trail. It's kind of double track hiking trail, but there's some awesome descents in it.
Yeah, I agree. I stumbled upon that. I think was it at last year's or the year before's MISCA races. I stumbled upon that when we were there. Definitely made my way there, and you're right. There's hikers on the trail, so you got to kind of watch out for them coming around some hot corners, and definitely some
Right.
fast, fun downhills there.
Yeah. It's a good system. You can start Bald and then ride about half of it, then cut into Addison and ride that, and then finish off the second half of Bald. It's a good loop.
Heck yeah. What other sports or activities have you done in the past that you believe may be translated to the bike?
During the off season, I do some ski racing. I don't love it, but it's I like skiing. I don't know. I don't really like the racing aspect. It's a little stressful. I think it's definitely helped with my biking because I think you need some leg muscles for skiing. I haven't really done any research. It also helps with handling, I think, because it's good translation between angulation and skiing, I think, which is kind of learning to separate the upper half of your body from the lower half. And it's pretty much the same principle as biking. You want to lean your bike and not your body and your bike so you can keep your weight over the tires. In skiing, you want to keep your weight over the edge of the skis. So I think that definitely helps.
I'm going to agree with that. And I can see that when I watch ski racing too.
Right.
So you said it's more stressful. What makes that more stressful?
Well, in a bike race, even the shortest ones, short track, it's 25 minutes long. Ski race at a crappy ski resort made out of a trash dump. It's a 17-second race. It's ridiculous. So you have to be perfect every single corner, and if you're not, then you lose. And I guess I just like there's a little bit more room for error when you're biking because it gives you the liberty just to push that little extra bit without worrying about making a tiny mistake that could end the whole race for you.
That makes sense. It's funny you said crappy little garbage dumps because what wrecked me for skiing or snowboarding here was when I went out to Colorado
Oh
and
yeah,
runs for days, right? And then you come home and you ride the lift for 3 minutes and you're down in 15 seconds and you're like, okay, this isn't fun anymore.
for sure. I had a ski trip out west one time a while ago. We went to Park City, Utah. We skied there, and the runs there are incredible. We even got super lucky with a powder day, and it was insane.
Heck yeah, so much fun. What was the best investment that you made, or maybe a parent or family member made in you that's been the most helpful along the way to get you to where you are today?
I think I probably have to say my teams that I'm part of. So when I was in seventh grade, I joined the Lake Orion team, the school bike team, and that was a really good thing because it was a super supportive environment. It was a lot of fun. There was a lot of cool people on the team, and it kind of got me into racing. And then after that, I kind of outgrew the resources of my school team and was looking for something a little different. And that's where I talked to Hunter Post a little bit, and he told me about Team Athletic Mentors, and I joined them. And I think it's a little bit like the Coyotes in that it offers a little bit more support than a regular MISCA team because I know you guys go out to nationals and everything. And kind of what Athletic Mentors is doing is they're trying to provide an extra step up from a MISCA team so they just give you that extra level of support that you need to kind of take your riding from the level that a MISCA team can get you to an elite level of competition. And I just think that I probably wouldn't be as fast as I am right now without that because there's just so many resources that I have from that team and from the coaching they provide.
How does athletic mentors work? Is that something that they reach out to you? Do you reach out to them? I mean, if there's other kids up and coming and maybe they want a little bit of help or to get involved, is that what's the qualification?
The qualification is we take people that are, I think, eighth grade and above, eighth grade to 12th grade, and we're basically just looking for people that love to race their bike and not just inside the MISCA season. We want people that race year round, not year round, but like just outside before MISCA, people that don't just race for the MISCA season, like people that do mountain bike races before that, leading up to it, people that do gravel and stuff. And you don't have to do different types because it's kind of part of what the team does is we're trying to make people who are just mountain bikers or just road bikers, people who can enjoy every part of the sport, which is super cool. There's an application process on the Team Athletic Mentors website, I think, and I think applications run until November 1st. And if you love racing, if you love riding your bike and you want to get faster, just check out the application.
Yeah, so head over to the Athletic Mentors website and check things out. Perfect. Did anyone influence you to get in the sport? Do you look up to anyone? Do you have a hero or an idol?
I look up to a lot of people, and the people that I've looked up to have changed as I've gotten faster. So when I was littler, my biggest idol and inspiration was my dad, and all I wanted to do was be as fast as him. And when I was like 12 or 13, I would have been happy with my career as a cyclist if one day I was as fast as him. And then it happened, and I started looking up to people that were a little faster, some more local people. And then as I got older and faster, I started to look up to even faster people, like the people I was racing with in the gravel series. Like Garrett Genema is a big one. He's so fast, and Alex and Alexi too. And people like Kyan even, and Kellen. I looked up to Kellen for a long time. Less specifically, my favorite pro athlete is Nino Schurter. He's incredible. Um, I love watching him race. He's the best bike handler on the pro cross country circuit by far, and he has the same bike as me, so that automatically makes him cool.
Nice. That's my man too. I can't miss a race. I got to watch the races all the time. I yeah, he's the best in my mind as well. And I kind of did the same thing as you did. I would look up to local mountain bikers, and then when I got faster than them, I kind of did the same thing.
Yeah,
It's kind of funny.
it's
Um,
always a progression too.
yeah, absolutely. When and what was your first ever race, and take us through that experience?
Okay, my first ever race was a tailwind race, which I think was a Michigan series, but they don't exist anymore. But it was a tailwind race series, and it was at Stony Creek Metro Park. And I think I was 8 years old, maybe. And they started us ahead of the adults on the same course as the adults. So I was 8 years old. I wasn't very fast when I was 8. And we pretty much started. And then 10 minutes later, I was being passed by elite riders, the elite riders of 10 years ago. I was getting passed by all of them and tons of adults. And it was a little overwhelming. And I kind of broke down crying on the side of the trail. And eventually my dad came through. And I was with a bike patrol guy, and my dad came through, and he's like, "Are you okay?" And I was crying, so he kind of took me out of the race, and I felt really bad because I made him DNF, but he said it wasn't a big deal. But he was worried that it would ruin biking for me forever, but I guess it didn't. So it was quite an experience, but we're still here. It was good.
I like to ask that question because most people, and I think I just said this in the last podcast, but most people have a bad first race experience. And yet we continue to do it because there's something about it that's just intriguing and fun and exciting.
Absolutely. Racing is so fun. It's great to just try and put all that training you've done to the test and see how you compare to everyone else.
I agree. So we're coming close to the end of the season here, right? Winter's coming, fast approaching. We've already had
Unfortunately,
snow. Yeah, unfortunately, I'm with you. We've had snow already. It's
it snowed here
October.
today.
It did?
Yeah,
Oh, yeah, it's disgusting. How much time will you build up to on the bike during base building? Like, what will be your biggest week, do you think?
my base building doesn't differ that much from my regular training. Just because being a student athlete, I don't have tons of time to dedicate. My base building during the off season, I'll probably get up to about 10 hours a week. Most of my base building actually comes like in March and April. March, April, May, the early months of the year when it's kind of gravel season. That's when I do most of that. Most of the efforts in the off season are just trying to keep a little bit of fitness around and a lot of long Zwift rides. My average training week, kind of in the spring and summer, looks about 12 or 13 hours a week.
Okay.
Um, and it's about 6 days on the bike, one off, and then one of those days will be a rest day,
Okay.
or sorry, a recovery spin.
Okay. Do you incorporate any strength training into your routine?
Not often. I do more strength training in off season than when I'm riding, but I think it's definitely something that I need to include. I feel like you hear that a lot, but uh, it's not a huge part of my training.
Well, did you listen to Todd Wells last week?
I don't think so. I listened to Kyan and Annabelle though, and they
Okay.
both talked about it.
I just spoke with Todd, and his this week he talked about how it's important to incorporate some kind of strength training in. Obviously, probably a little more in the off season, and then something to kind of maintain. And he said that most of the pros are doing that.
Yeah, I I've done quite a bit of research on it actually. I like to do research on the stuff that I'm doing just so I know how it's actually affecting my training, but I know a bunch of like some of the more analytical pros. I don't know if you know Dylan Johnson. He's kind of semi-pro guy, but he definitely talks about the benefits of strength training a lot.
Yeah, he was on the podcast too, so you can go back
Yeah,
and listen to him.
yeah,
Absolutely. He's a good guy to listen to and follow on YouTube.
yeah, definitely.
During a race week, if you've got an A race on the weekend coming up, normal weeks are 12 to 13 hours, you say. How many hours will you put on the bike for an A race week? Will you back off a little bit?
Yeah, I definitely back off. I'm not sure on the specifics of the hours, but it's probably around 8 maybe. I do for a race. I'll do probably one or two harder interval efforts really early in the week, and then I'll do a bunch of recovery later in the week after that, like hour and a half long recovery spins, which are a little bit miserable, but got to get the recovery in. And then 2 days before the race is always a rest day, and then I'll have openers the day before the race, and my openers kind of depend on which kind of race it is. If it's a gravel race or a road race or something, I'll do interval based openers. And if it's a mountain bike race, I'll try and do a course pre-ride.
You speaking of intervals, do you like the shorter intervals or the longer intervals?
I was actually kind of thinking about this earlier, and when I was listening to some of your podcasts earlier in the year, I heard you ask that question. I was definitely, I'm a long type of interval guy. I love 2x20s, 3x20s, and that was when I was conditioned for gravel racing. So I had some good long power. I had good threshold power. So I definitely would have said that. But recently, I'm conditioned for MISCA for hour 20-minute races. So I've been working a lot more on the short power, doing stuff like 5x5s, VO2 5x5s, and I've been starting to like those. So I don't know if I have an objective preference. I have to say it kind of depends on which one I'm going to be more conditioned for, which one I'll see numbers that I like for.
Right? Whichever one goes well, right?
Exactly.
What has been your most memorable race on the bike? And walk us through that experience.
Does it have to be memorable in a good way?
No, I guess.
Okay. Well, then I'd have to say my most memorable race was qualifiers at Nationals this year. It was my first kind of big effort at altitude where I was going all in, and that was definitely a mistake. I definitely should have done something hard at altitude before that because I was in Durango the week before, and I don't know if you've ever ridden out there, but I met Todd and Troy Wells while we were there.
Oh,
And
nice.
yeah, and they actually did this with us. There's something they have out there called the Telegraph Time Trial, and it's a Strava climb, and we all did that. I was at a camp, and we all did that at the end of the week as kind of like a race thing. And I thought that would be a good effort. And I I went hard, but I didn't want to blow up. So I was riding with a kid from the Durango Devo team because I knew he would probably know what he was doing because he rides out there all the time. So I thought that would be good for kind of an effort at altitude, but I went out to nationals and the qualifying race. I went as hard as I could because I wanted to qualify up that first climb, and my heart rate was probably at 180. And no matter what I could do, I couldn't do anything to get it down the rest of the race. And it was just pegged the whole time, and it was painful because I couldn't breathe and I couldn't like pedal. I couldn't do anything. And after the race, I I kind of thought about it a lot, and I figured out that I wasn't breathing deep enough. So I don't really know how breathing works, but I feel like kind of guess what happened is that I wasn't breathing deep enough to get all the carbon dioxide out of my lungs. But if there's any scientists listening, they'll probably say that's not how it works. It was a brutal race. It was bad. And I did end up qualifying in the second to last spot, but it was a very memorable race.
It's memorable because it was hard
Yeah,
and it didn't go how you wanted it to.
no, not at all.
But you still qualified, man. That's good.
Yeah, and then the finals race actually went a lot better because I focused on breathing deep, and it was actually pretty good.
Nice. So maybe it was the deep breathing. Maybe you were just taking too short of breaths and not
Right.
getting that full, as much oxygen in as you could and as much CO2 out as you could. Maybe you're
That's
right.
my theory.
Who has been your biggest competition in the MISCA series? And take us through a race where you went head to head.
My biggest competition is probably going to be more than one person. I have to
Okay.
say it's probably my three closest biking friends, my three best teammates, all from Team Athletic Mentors actually. Hunter Post, Hunter Bell, and Spencer Blaz, and they're all super fast guys. The most exciting race we went head to head at was the Merrill race, I'd have to say, and it was an insane race. It was nothing like I thought it was going to be. From the start, I was in a pretty good spot. I was in third, which is where I like to be for races. I like to be in second or third because I kind of, for the first lap, I like to feel out how the race is going to go, and I don't want to use all my effort right at the start. We did the first lap, we were kind of not going super hard. And then for the second lap, Spencer went out in front and he pushed the pace hard. And it was surprising because that was the strongest he's ever been there. And I didn't really see it coming, but it was a struggle. It made me a little nervous about what was going to happen at the end because I was doing all I could to hang on. And midway through the third lap, where you cut out onto that grassy part, kind of by the baseball fields, I guess, which is about a quarter of the way through the lap probably, Hunter Bell went around in front, so I was back in third, which is not where I love to be, that close to the end of the race. So that was a little stressful. And then we were coming to that kind of part where it cuts through the woods before you do the downhill down to Sawtooth. And I was able to get past Spencer there, so I was back in second, which was comfortable because I knew I could do something if I needed to, which I would need to, obviously, because I was not in first yet, which was a problem. But we went through Sawtooth, and the order was Hunter Bell, me, Spencer, and then Hunter Post. And we all went through Sawtooth, and I kind of got gapped on the technical part a little bit, but was able to catch right back up on the climb up to the switchback downhill. And we came out of Sawtooth, and all four of us that were there, we kind of realized what was happening, that something had to happen or it was going to be a crazy sprint. So, and no one wants to sprint Hunter Post because that's a recipe for disaster. I don't think anyone can outsprint him. We came to that, you go down the rocky part through the stream and you head up that last climb. It's not a long climb. There's probably 4 or 5 turns in it, but it's a pretty short climb, and Hunter Bell launches a big attack up that, and I got gapped a little bit from that, which was scary. And Spencer's behind me yelling at me to close the gap. So uh, I burned a big match. Thought it would be the last one, but it was the second to last one, luckily. And I closed the gap, and like 30 feet from the top, where you come out into the clearing right before you make the right turn and then the left to the finish line, and Hunter Bell blew up, and I didn't slow down. I called out, "On your left." I went right around him and went full gas to the end, and I was able to get the win, which was good but lucky, because I don't know what would have happened if he had been able to keep that whole attack, or if I'd been in third place instead of second there, because I know that split second of delay that the other two had getting around him is a big part of what got me the win. And racing's racing. It is what it is.
That's a good battle right there. I
It
mean,
was. It was probably our best one all season. Because,
yeah,
yeah,
especially when you're talking like you were giving it everything you could just to hang on.
right.
And
It
then
was,
for it to come down like that at the end, it's a good
yeah,
thing Spencer yelled at you, man.
I know. I don't know what would have happened if he didn't.
That's cool.
It was a fun race.
Why do you love mountain biking?
I love being outside in nature, and I love riding my bike. I like going fast a lot. I like trails. I like going fast around corners and over obstacles and stuff.
Yeah, it's a good time.
Yeah,
Definitely. The outdoors, going fast through the woods, around corners, yeah, over obstacles. That's fun.
yeah.
So I like the dragon. Have
I've
you been
never
to the
ridden one.
dragon?
I have not. I've heard it's like DTE but better.
I think so. Some people don't think so because it's two-way traffic, but I still think so.
Is it scary that it's two-way traffic, or is there like a preferred direction that most people ride it in?
No, it's just so if you've got a blind corner, I always just start yelling. You know,
Yeah.
I just yell corner really loud, like multiple
Have you
times.
ever ran
Corner,
into
corner,
anyone?
corner. I've never run into anyone, but I've come close.
Oh, yeah.
Get up there, man. This weekend's supposed to be nice if you're not racing peak to peak.
I'll be at peak to peak. Are you doing pro?
No, I'm still not going to race. I don't think the rest of the season because of my shoulder.
Oh, okay.
I'm going to let that heal up all the way, I think, before that might be a good idea. You know,
Yeah,
in a race, you can always get barred and crashed, and I
for
wouldn't
sure.
want that to have that with someone else, you know, doing that and then having them feel bad. So I'm just going to, or me being mad at them.
Yeah,
So I'm just going to wait at this point, I think, till next year to race again because it's good, but if I touch it, I can still feel a little bit of pain. We'll just
yeah,
we'll let it heal up all the way before we get crazy.
yeah. I know three people on my team this year actually separated their shoulder. So,
Oh,
and
really?
yeah, and they were nervous to ride afterwards too.
Yeah. What's your favorite supplement for hydration during a race?
Not sponsored, but I wish I was. I use a lot of Hammer products. So during a race, I use Hammer Heed in the cherry bomb flavor because I like the caffeine.
Hammer Nutrition, you should probably reach out to him.
We've been trying.
Have you?
Yeah, they're not committed yet, but they're interested.
Well, that's good.
Yes.
What kind of devices do you use for recovery? Do you do any, I mean, even exercises like stretching or massage, percussive therapy, compression, foam rolling?
That's another thing that I'm not great at. I try to do recovery. I have a recovery shake after, and then I have a foam roller that I'll use occasionally, but it's not one of my strongest points as a racer. I've been looking at like one of those massage gun things. I think one of those would be nice to have maybe, but I don't have anything like that at the moment.
You know, you're young and your body recovers pretty good. So as you get older, when you get to my age and you're in your mid 40s, you definitely are going to need some recovery things.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
I think the percussive therapy gun's a good thing. And I think that the compression boots like the Normatec or
yeah. I would love those.
the Air
I
Relax.
would, I would love to have some of those.
If there was one race that you could do over, what would it be and what would you have done differently?
It's a tie between two. I've been thinking back to Orta Shore this year, actually. It rained a lot. It was really muddy up there. And it's not something that I did during the race, but I wore the wrong glasses and I could not see the entire time. And it was
Oh,
terrible because I was going so slow on all the downhills because I couldn't see anything. It was really muddy. And most people would say just take your glasses off so you can see, but I have contacts, so if I take my glasses off, I'll get dirt in my eyes and in my contacts, and then that
it's
will not
over.
be a fun time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I would have liked to have some better glasses for that. And then I guess the Lakeshore race this year. If I could have done something different there, I definitely would have tried to make a move earlier, been more aggressive in the trail because that was a weird race. You know, we weren't pushing the pace in the single track at all. But as soon as we got to a two track section, the guy in the lead would just sprint the whole thing, and it was it was a tough race because it was really frustrating. There's not a lot of passing there, and it was just tough to deal with because it wasn't a hard pace in the trail, but it was a full sprint at every passing point.
I wondered what was going on because I would see you guys in the trail and it looked like no one was going fast. But then when I would see you guys out in the open, it just seemed like you guys were going really fast. So I'm glad that you told me that because I'm thinking back and I was like, what is going on with that group right now?
Yeah, it was a little bit of a nightmare. It was definitely not a good style of racing for me, and I should have done something to change that.
Gotcha. So glasses, I just had an idea. I wonder if you put Rain X on the outside of the glasses. I wonder if that would help with shedding the mud and the water off them.
Maybe. I've never thought of that, but
I haven't
I
either. I
might
might
have to
try
try it now.
it. If you could spend 1 week with another athlete or a coach, who would it be and why? And I've got an
uh,
idea.
Probably Nino Schurter.
All right.
uh, I mean, I don't know why you wouldn't want to spend a week with him. It'd be an incredible experience just to see what training it takes to be the best of the best, and I'm sure he could teach me a thing or two about descending and cornering and anything about biking. So
Absolutely. He'd help you get your
definitely,
jumping down too with the tail whip.
yeah, I bet. Yeah, he's insane. He's like a free rider and a cross country mountain biker combined.
Yeah, he's really good. Yeah, that's who I would spend my week with too.
Yep.
So maybe we could just go together and we could get it done with, one trip.
That'd be perfect. That'd be a lot more convenient for him too. He'd
Yeah,
probably be more likely to say yes to that.
right. That would be cool. Do you do anything pre-competition to get yourself motivated? Any rituals, music?
I'm kind of a superstitious person when it comes to racing because I feel like if I do a race and I don't do the exact same thing every time I do my warm up, then if I don't do well in the race, it'll be because of what I did in my warm up, or maybe since I changed something in my warm up, I won't do well in the race because my warm up wasn't exactly the same. Well, not my warm up, but my pre race routine. I always have beet juice and then like a powder mix because real beet juice is terrible. I don't know if you've ever tried it, but it tastes like dirt.
Yes, it does. Yuck.
Yeah, so I have like a powder that tastes good. And then I listen to some music too. I like to listen to Kid Rock. I know there's a lot of people that don't like Kid Rock, but I like to listen to Kid Rock before my races.
Whatever, man. Whatever works for you. Don't worry about what other people think.
Yeah.
Kid Rock is it's funny cuz yeah, you're right. People either like him or they don't like him.
Yeah. Yeah.
What events do you have left on the calendar this year? And maybe explain a little bit about what they are and where they are.
Left this year, I have Peak to Peak, which is It's one of the bigger season-ending races for the Michigan crowd, I guess. And it's at Crystal Mountain. It's a pretty cool race. It's like a mix of gravel and easy mountain biking. And at the end, there's a monster climb and a crazy downhill section. And if you do expert or pro, you do it 3 times, and it ends up being a pretty long race. I think it's about 2 hours and 20 minutes. So that'll be a super fun race. There's going to be a lot of big people there. Kyan's going to be there. So yeah,
I'm bummed I'm missing that one.
yeah, yeah. I remember you were there last year. I saw you.
That was brutal last year.
It was. I did expert last year, and I should have won. I should have won, but I didn't eat the whole race, so I I ended up bonking and definitely did not win. It's totally my fault, but yeah. And then I have the Lowell 50 gravel race the weekend after Peak to Peak, which is the last gravel race of the year, which is really sad because I love gravel so much. It'll just be a super fun race because I haven't raced a lot of my gravel competition in a while, so I'll see how my MISCA training, my change in training type, has affected how I do at gravel. So that'll be a fun race. And then after that, I have Iceman, which is going to be my second pro race ever after Peak to Peak this weekend. I'm excited for that. Oh, I should probably explain what Iceman is, even though probably everyone already knows. But I think, is it the biggest mountain bike race in the country? Is that true?
It's the biggest point to point.
Okay. But it's a huge race. There's a ton of people that show up, a ton of fast people. Riley Amos is going to be there this year.
Oh,
Um,
really?
yeah, he just signed up,
Oh, geez.
and
He's fast.
he's crazy. He races World Cups in Europe and podiums, I think. I don't know if he podiums, but he's fast. And then I assume Cole has to come back because he won last year. He's got to defend his title.
He's
And
coming back.
Alexi's going to be there. Kerry Warner's going to be there. Casey Hildebrandt. There's going to be tons of crazy fast people. That's a super cool race. It's a big party,
Yeah,
and
it is.
it'll be a great time to see how I really stack up against everyone. And I think my goal there is top 20.
All right. So what I'm hoping is because we're we're already having snow and I don't
Yeah.
have an XC bike right now, I really hope that the night before Iceman, it just starts snowing and we
No,
wake up and there's like a foot of snow and I've got a fat
no.
bike that I'll race maybe,
That would be terrible. That would be
and then
horrible.
that'll be really good for me because I'll be the only one with a fat bike.
My dad has a fat bike, but it's broken right now. The brakes are
Okay.
seized, so I got to get that working before. We
Yeah.
have like a we have like a Strava fat bike race time trial thing that we do over on this side of the state during the winter time, which is super cool. But I think snow would be good for Iceman because if it snows, then Cole has no chance because he's from Colorado, and there's no snow in Colorado except on the mountains. So maybe that would be good.
We got to look out for the young guy coming in. He's coming in hot. Riley Amos, right?
Yeah, Riley Amos,
Yeah, Todd.
U23.
Yeah, Todd mentioned him this week, and so that means he's fast.
Yeah, I think, isn't Todd going to be at Iceman too?
No, I don't think he's going to be there this year.
Okay.
What are your plans for next year?
For next year, I'll be going off to college, but before that, hopefully, I'll get to do some of the early season races. I guess outside of Michigan, I'll be planning to do the Arkansas Pro Cup and then Englewood UCI, and also probably nationals, depending on how that falls with going to college. In Michigan, I'm hoping to do Barrier Bay and then some other gravel races. Maybe Lumberjack, depending on college again. After all that, I'm hoping I've been accepted, and it's currently my plan, but to go to Fort Lewis in Durango and join their team, hopefully.
That's the best place to go, I think.
Yeah,
Durango. I still haven't visited Durango, but from what everyone's telling me, that's my next trip is to go
it's
to Durango in the summer.
it's crazy. The trails there are scary. I did their camp there, and it was like every other turn was the sketchiest trail you've ever seen in your life, and you're 3 inches from dying. It was insane. I'm almost scared to go back to college there because it means I have to ride the trails again. But
You'll get good at it.
yeah, it'll be a good, fast learning curve
Yeah. So speaking of trails, what is your favorite trail to ride in Michigan? The whole
in
state.
Michigan.
Yeah, favorite
Mm,
trail in Michigan.
I don't know. There's so many good ones down here and up in the Upper Peninsula area too, with Marquette and Copper. There's a lot. I love the Mount Marquette Loop in Marquette, the blue loop up there. And then also, I don't know if you've been to Copper Harbor recently. There's this trail called Citrus Tech, and I think they use it for their enduro or downhill stages there. But it's an incredible trail. It's kind of jumpy, but I don't really do the jumps because they're scary. There's a bunch of rock drops, and then there's some crazy rock rolls, some insane rock roll-ins that are like super steep with drops in the middle of them, and they're so scary, but they're awesome.
I haven't been to Copper Harbor ever, so I need to get up
Oh,
there.
you have to. It's so good.
Is Mount Marquette Loop, does that include Zoogs?
I think that's the yellow loop.
Okay.
Um, so no, Mount Marquette is the one. It kind of starts from the main trailhead, and it's like super rocky. It's got the Doctor's Trail segment in it,
Okay. Yep.
and all that stuff.
I know which one you're talking about now.
Yeah,
Yeah. Those are good trails. And I'm gonna have to go check out that one in Copper Harbor then.
it's awesome. Copper Harbor's incredible. It's so
Yeah.
cool up there because it's like there's nothing in the town. There's like one gas station, and it's not a modern gas station either. It's like super old gas pumps. But there's one street light in the entire town. It's incredible up there.
I've been there before, but it was before I rode bikes. So
Yeah,
I need to get back with the bike.
yeah, for sure.
If you were to give advice to younger athletes that look up to you, because I know that you have some that do with MISCA, what would that advice be to them?
I know you hear this a lot because I've heard other people say it on your podcast, but just keep it fun. But on top of that, if there's something you want, then work for it. Put the work in for it. Because I know that's what everyone always tells me is just to keep it fun. But some days you just don't want to train. It wouldn't be fun to train. But if you have a goal and you want something, then I think eventually there's a point where it can't always be fun. Obviously, that depends on how old you are. Like if you're in sixth grade or seventh grade or something, it should probably always be fun. Don't go out every day and ride your bike for 7 hours just because you want to be faster than everyone else.
Be fun, but at the same time, you're right. If you have goals to be faster, it's not always going to be fun because sometimes that pain cave isn't very fun. But the fun comes when you win 5 MISCA races. Isn't that correct?
Exactly. Yes, it's totally right.
Awesome. Is there anything you'd like to say before we sign off?
Just thank you for having me. This was a lot of fun.
Man, I'm glad you came on. It's cool to have the state champ on, the fresh new state champ.
Yeah,
Mountain biking
thank
in the
you.
state of Michigan, man. Do you want people connecting with you on social media?
Yeah, sure. My Instagram is jonathan.biker5331. It's not very easy to remember. It's not that interesting either, so
They can hit the rewind button and listen to it a few times and write it down.
if they really want to know that bad, yeah.
So you can follow him. That was Instagram, correct?
Yes.
Cool. So connect with him there. Jonathan, this has been fun watching you improve on the bike over the years, and you had an amazing season with the MISCA racing. I wish the best for you in the future, and I'm glad you were able to come on today and have this jortsy conversation.
Yes, thank you. It was a lot of fun. Thanks for having me.
You have just listened to Unpacking the Athlete,